time for Myotismon. Yeah. So next up for the evil Digimon that they have to deal with in season 1, we have Myotismon. Now we actually meet Myotismon's henchman, Devimon, first, who kind of seems to be his main henchman. Gatomon is also a henchman, but Gatomon, of course, ends up being Kari's partner, so she's good. So she's actually not necessarily going to get talked about too much in this video, beyond the relationship that she has with Myotismon. We actually meet Devimon first. Myotismon has like his just it's kind of referred to as just like Myotismon's army that he has, which are all these evil Digimon that serve him and try to follow his goals. Devimon seems to be his main henchman. Devimon is in charge of trying to, split up the Digidestins or make them lose their power. And he actually employs a few Digimon to help him with this. First, he actually ends up trying to deal with TK. He tried to tricked TK into leaving Tokomon, so that way made the two of them fight, so that way he can try to keep TK with him and keep that bond from growing. TK, of course, ends up going back to Tokomon when Tai shows up. Devimon also tried to feed Tai and TK, along with the Patamon and Agumon, the mushrooms that actually make you forget. So he tried to feed them that, but Sora prevented that from happening. He also told Sora that she would never be able to make her Crest of Love glow because she doesn't know what love is, which is wrong and a lie. Devimon then made a deal with Digitamamon at the Digimon Diner to try to make it that Matt and Joe had to keep working there again and again and again, by causing problems for them to keep their debt getting larger. So that way Matt and Joe couldn't move on, and it would also make Matt resent Joe because Matt couldn't go back and find TK. This gets resolved when Tai and TK show up, and when they are able to actually find out that Devimon and Digitamamon were actually in on it together. This is when Matt has got Garurumon Digivolve for the first time into Were-Garurumon, and they're able to defeat Digitamamon. Digitamamon pops up later in season 2, and he actually ends up being their friend. He'll get listed kind of more under the friends one because he actually spends more time as a friend than an enemy. And then we have Vadamon, who is Vademon, something like that, who is the one that ends up dealing with Izzy, who's not necessarily 100% like following Myotismon. He's just kind of this pawnbroker type Digimon that tricks people out of what they have. Like he tricks Izzy out of his Digivice and his Crest of Knowledge and his intelligence. His knowledge, all this want that Izzy has for intelligence. He tricks Izzy out of that. And then this is, puts it in his shop, and then Devimon tries to buy them, which doesn't go very well. Izzy, of course, snaps out of it with the help of Tentomon, and this is when Izzy digivolves Kabuterimon into Mega Kabuterimon. So we have those, and Vadamon is defeated. I don't remember if he gets destroyed or if he just loses, because we never see Vadamon again as far as I'm aware. And then of course we still have some of the other various Digimon that are under the control, or that are part of Devimon's army, or part of Myotismon's army. There is Nanimon, who is this not a attractive looking Digimon at all. That is kind of in charge, that's kind of brought on by Devimon to try to train up some new recruits. And this is when Agumon and Palmon end up going in under disguise, and we have Punk Agumon and Reggae Palmon, which are just funny, and it's just like, well, let's just draw them with funny clothes. Okay, I'm okay with this. And like they pretend to join the arm, or join, and they end up tricking the guy They're told that if you give him a soda, he gets really tipsy. Obviously, in the actual series, it is alcohol. But in the English dub, they make it a soda. And they get rid of him. They knock him out, and then the rest of the other Digimon that are kind of just the more weak ones, they flee. And then we have the Digimon that have been recruited by Gatomon. Gatomon actually in her role as being Myotismon's hench cat, however that would go, would be, well, actually it wouldn't be, would it be hench, well, it wouldn't be henchwoman, henchman, would it be henchmon? Something like that. Given Digimon love their puns, I'm going to go with henchmon or hench cat, because Gatomon's a cat. Gatomon seems to be the much better qualified out of Gatomon and Devimon in regards to serving Myotismon. Now, as I went over in Kari's video, we know a lot about Gatomon's past later on. We learn about Gatomon's past later on. At the beginning, when they're first introduced to her, in the series itself, I don't remember if when I first saw Gatomon on the series, if I was just like, oh, I don't like that cat, or if it was just like, odd. But Gatomon actually gathered up quite a few actual useful Digimon. Several of them are called, there's a Davidramon, which are these kind of giant blackish dragon type Digimon that I actually kind of like. They're not my favorite Digimon, but I kind of like them. They wouldn't be a bad Digimon to have. I think they're rather kind of a powerful, if I remember correctly. They're kind of guard dogs a bit. And Myotismon had just one of them pull his carriage. Then there is Phantomon, who is, again, a rather strong Digimon that they have to end up dealing with later on when Myotismon is rounding up all the people to bring them to the community center, whatever, that he's gathering everybody else at when he's trying to find Kari. And Kari, Phantomon shows up, and Kari actually surrenders to him to prevent him from hurting Tai or Matt and Sora anymore. Phantomon does get defeated. There is, of course, multiple Bakemon that work for Myotismon that kind of serve under Reapermon. Again, they're not very smart. One of them ends up in Izzy's apartment with Izzy and his parents, and Izzy put up this weird firewall that's, I don't remember if it's just around the apartment or if it's around Izzy's room, but he put up this firewall that Genai gave him, and the Digimon can't see Izzy or his parents. He just sees floating silverware, because Izzy's parents are holding giant utensils in order to try to attack the Bakemon. So the Bakemon, again, are not very useful. Then there is Skull Meramon, who's actually a rather strong Digimon. He's technically he would be what Meramon would digivolve into if Meramon ever digivolved. Skull Meramon also looks like, as I mentioned before, Knight Rider, kind of. Leather, chains, flaming skull, Knight Rider. What was it's Knight Rider. That's from Marvel, I think. I think so. Or is it Ghost Rider? I think it's Ghost Rider. I don't remember. One of the two. Because one of them's a series with David Hasselhoff, and then the other one is not. One of them is a Marvel character, and I can never remember which is which. But he looks like this, and Sora and Mimi are actually the two that kind of have to deal with him at one point, because Sora and Mimi, when they end up back in the real world, of course, all the kids are trying to find the 8th Digidestined, which Genai could have just honestly told him that, Tai, it's your sister. I was there when it was all determined. It's your sister. Just go find her, keep her safe. Which I already chewed out Genai for. But he will continually get chewed out on that. But what ends up happening is Mimi and Sora end up in this kind of the Tokyo Tower type thing. And they're there, and Skull Meramon shows up, and he causes problems, and then because Garudamon is a fire type Pokemon, Digimon did it. I knew I was going to do it. I knew I was going to do that. At some point, I got further along than I thought I would. before I made that mistake. But Garudamon is a fire type Digimon, so that doesn't really do much against Skullmarimon. And Palmon is a grass type Digimon, so that doesn't do much against them anyway. So then Tai shows up, and him and Metal Greymon are able to defeat and destroy Skullmarimon. Then they also have Sora gets her moment when she has to deal with Mammothmon, which is this giant mammoth type Digimon that is kind of sent by Gatomon, not very stealthily on her part, to try to find the 8th Digi-Destined Child. As I mentioned with Kari's video, Myotismon had all these fake crests of light made that would react to Kari, but they would not actually result in her being able to use them. And what ends up happening is Garudamon, they end up dealing with Mammothmon. Garudamon's the main one that fights, but what ends up happening is it triggers because it happens in Heightened View Terrace, which is where the battle between Parrotmon and Red Greymon were, where that battle was like 4 years ago when the Digi-Destined remember that. And this is when they start getting their flashbacks of, oh yeah, there was that big battle that happened here, and it wasn't a terrorist attack, it was Digimon. It was a different Greymon, and then it was this big bird type Digimon. And this is when we get that memory. And as far as I remember, I think Mammothmon gets destroyed by Garudamon. And then we have it's Gesumon, who is just this kind of like octopus squid type Digimon that just shows up and is causing problems at one point, and Joe and Ikakamon are able to take care of him. And then one of the other things that happens is because some of the Digi-Destinies kind of get their chance to kind of go up against one of these Myotismon's army Digimon, except for TK, because at this point in time, the only one, Joe can't fully Digivolve Gomamon yet, neither can Mimi with Palmon quite yet, but it happens in one of these battles. And we have Raramon, which is actually just giant sludge-ish type Digimon, because what ends up happening is Izzy's actually the one that has to deal with Raramon. Izzy actually goes, and Izzy is trying to find via, tracking, and because he has with his computer, he has the ability to kind of track where all the other Digivices are. And he finds the 8th Digi-Destined Digivice, and it's moving, and he tries to follow it. Him and Tentomon sneak out, and he tries to follow the Digivice. And it is Kari's Digivice, but it's actually been grabbed by her cat, Miko, and Miko is kind of running around with it. And I'm just like, Tai, you need to have a talk with Jedi. And Izzy goes off and he tries to find where the Digivice is, and it doesn't go so well. The Miko carries it off, and Miko kind of runs into Raramon, who, as I said, is this giant sludge Digimon, and Izzy ends up having to fight Raramon, which is, Izzy Digivolves Tentomon all the way up to Mega Kabuterimon. I do think that he destroys Raramon as well. As I mentioned, Tai's group don't have as big a problem when it comes to destroying bad Digimon as kind of that barrier, that block that Davis and his group have to get over in season 2, because most of the Digimon that Davis and his group had to deal with were not bad Digimon. They were either Digimon that were being controlled by the the Dark Rings or the Dark Spirals, or they were Pokemon or Digimon. Did it again. Digimon that were created via the Control Spires. So they weren't, they just had to either destroy the Dark Ring or the Dark Spiral. Same thing like what Tai and his group had to do with the Black Gears. Then they had to destroy the Dark Spire or the Control Spire Digimon, and then they had to deal with actual real bad Digimon, as opposed to Digimon that were just angry and needed to be calmed down. And so they deal with that, and they have to get over that mental block. But Tai and his group didn't necessarily have that big of a problem. I mean, they didn't destroy Ikakamon way back when because he wasn't a big enough threat, and he was more just a Digimon going on instinct. He wasn't necessarily this huge evil Digimon. They destroyed Devimon. Etamon got destroyed. Datamon got destroyed. Digitamamon did not get destroyed, but he comes back later and ends up being an ally. a bunch of the other Digimon that Myotismon brought with him end up getting destroyed. Goblymon and Pumpkinmon, or Pumpkinmon and Goblymon, Goblymon will get talked about in like the friend video a little bit more, because they actually end up being friends for TK and Matt for the short time that we're around them. But what ends up happening is, Izzy defeats Raramon, and then kind of the next one, these are going a little out of order for what order they actually deal with them. I think actually the order that they deal with them is Davidramon, Mammothmon, Gessomon, Skullmaramon, Raramon, then Phantomon / Bakumon at the same time. And then they have to deal with, then Mimi has to deal with Dark Tyrannomon, who, I actually kind of like Tyrannomon in Digimon. There's this, there's the kind of base form, I guess, is this red dinosaur type Digimon, which I actually like. And then we have Dark Tyrannomon, who is a Tyrannomon that was exposed to a virus that made it turn evil. And this is when Mimi activates her Crest of Sincerity because she's trying to protect her parents and the people that are in the community center, or the event center, whatever it's called. And she's trying to protect them, and this is when her Crest of Sincerity activates, and this is when Togemon digivolves into Lilymon for the first time. And Lilymon uses her wreath, whatever type of wreath power it is that she has, like makes a wreath around Dark Tyrannomon's neck, and it makes him calm down, and then he's just very sweet and kind. Then Myotismon comes along and attacks Lilymon, and I think he just destroys the Dark Tyrannomon because it's no longer useful to him. It failed him. He doesn't like it when things fail him. And then we have where Joe, as I went over in his video and kind of in TK's video as well, Joe has to deal with Megaseedramon when him and TK are trying to make their way into the city to be able to help the rest of the group. This is when Joe almost drowns, but this activates his Crest of Reliability, and then Gomamon is able to digivolve all the way up to Zudomon, and is able to, he defeats Megaseedramon, but he doesn't kill Megaseedramon, or doesn't destroy Megaseedramon. Megaseedramon actually kind of flees at some point once Myotismon is defeated, according to what it said on the Wikipedia. And then we get into Myotismon himself. Now, TK and Matt had already kind of dealt with Myotismon a little bit when he showed up and tried to attack Gatomon and Pumpkinmon because they kind of failed him. He ended up destroying them. But what ends up happening is, so Matt and TK kind of try to fight him, but it doesn't go so well. He doesn't destroy them, but he has to leave. He does cause some damage to them. But then, of course, we have Myotismon has basically had Gatomon by him, or Salamon by him, for a long time now. Again, we don't know exactly how much time has passed in the digital world between when the Digi eggs were first made and then hatched, and then when the Digidestined show up. We know that there is a big time dilation between, because like when they get back from the digital world the first time, because when Tai gets back from the digital world and he sees Kari in their house, he's like, it's the same day. It's not even like 10 minutes after I left, when we first left or whatever. And, it's the same days, almost the same time as when we left. And then he figures, and then they find out, oh, there's this big time dilation between the real world and the digital world. But we don't know exactly how long Gatomon / Salamon had to be under Myotismon's thumb, and how much he tortured her in that time frame. We see that, we see her in Wizardmon talk, and she has the scars on her paws, which I assume are still there. But she has the scars on her paws underneath her cat gloves, and we have that, unfortunately, that she has to deal with. And Wizardmon will get, very, very, very high mention when I do the friends, of course. But of course, Myotismon, I don't remember if he states specifically that he knew that Gatomon was the 8th Digimon, or if he just suspected it, and that's why he kept her around, because she was a good servant to him in the time frame. But he mentions that he always hated her eyes. Whenever she would look at him with those eyes, it kind of defied him. And he wanted to break her of that. Um, break her and then make her into what he wanted her to be, which he kind of did, but Gatomon still ended up, returning to Kari and becoming good and everything. And, this is, of course, Myotismon, of course, kills Wizardmon when Wizardmon gets between his attack, takes the attack that's meant for Kari and Gatomon. Wizardmon dies, and of course, this is when Gatomon digivolves into Angelmon for the first time when Kari's crest activates, and of course, then Angelmon is able to use her power in order to, she gathers up kind of the attacks from the rest of the Digimon that are the partner Digimon. She gathers up their attack power, and then she uses it to form this, powerful bow and arrow, and she, destroys Myotismon with it. It goes right through his chest, and this destroys him. And then, of course, we get the prophecy of, I have it here, and it's probably just going to be the quote that I used for this video. It's, the sky will be darkened by the wings of many bats. The fallen people will invoke the name of the undead Digimon King. And when the clock strikes the hour of the beast, the undead king will revive himself in his true form as the beast. Then angels will shoot arrows of hope and light at the loved ones of those they will be sent to protect, and a miracle will happen. Which, that's just going to be the quote that's on the end of this video. But what ends up happening is, of course, we have this prophecy that Jedi sends to Izzy after they defeat Myotismon, because they have this slight lull in between when they defeat Myotismon, and, the kids go and find their parents, and then, of course, they go, Joe and his brother go to the community center, or the event center, or whatever, and they're looking over the people, and the people are all just lying there asleep. Sora's mom's there, Mimi's parents are there, and they're not waking up. They just appear to be asleep. And what ends up happening is, while they're there and examining them, Sora's mom sits up, and she's like, what is it? She just starts chanting something like, praise the king, or whatever it is. And, we see Devimon show up, and he has Myotismon's mask with him, which, hey, you may not like Myotismon, but the guy's got style, okay? He's got a carriage. He seems to be able to apparently have the power to seduce human women, because he kept, using his carriage to act like Prince Charming, and then he would drain women's blood and give them anemia during the time frame when he first arrived in the human world, because he's a vampire. And, he's got great style. You at least got to give him that. I do like his mask. Don't like him, but I like his mask. And what ends up happening is, all of these different, these bats that are kind of serve-ish him start forming around the mask. And this is when, Izzy gets the message from Jedi about the prophecy. And Izzy's like, oh, this isn't good. And, between Izzy's parents and Matt's dad, Matt and TK's dad, they're able to figure out that, oh, there's this is a prophecy, the hour of the beast is 666, so it's 6 minutes and 6 seconds after 6 is when this is going to happen, and the people, the fallen people, all these people that are asleep at the event center, and Myotismon's going to go and devour them when he wakes up, and the undead king, the undead Digimon king, and he'll be at a beast and everything. And he does materialize at the time frame, and he turns into Venom Myotismon, which not as good as style, but still looks kind of cool. Again, depending on how you would digivolve your Digimon in the video games, it could turn into Venom Myotismon. But what ends up happening is he, then takes, him and Devimon start making their way to the community center, and Venom Myotismon just eats Devimon because he's hungry. And he's still making his way to the event center, community center, and, the Digidestined try to fight him, but he just knocks them away. And what they end up figuring out is that, the Angels of Light and Hope are, of course, or Hope and Light are, Anjumon and Angelmon, and they have to shoot these arrows at Matt and Tai, because, of course, they are, Kari and TK's older brothers, and they're the loved ones of those they have been sent to protect, and they shoot the arrows at them. And this is when we get War Greymon and Metal Garurumon, when we get them, of course, and which is fun. And then between them and the rest of the Digidestineds, Digimon helping, and the Digidestineds, Digivices kind of make these giant light-type ropes that kind of wrap around Myotismon's arms and his legs and his tail, and like I think that one of them wraps around his neck to prevent him from moving so much. And between War Greymon and Metal Garurumon working together, they are able to destroy Myotismon. And then he's gone, and then the Digidestined are all happy and everything. And then of course that's when they have to go to the digital world and they fight the Dark Masters, which will be the next one in this series. I will do another video about Myotismon and the whole scheming plans he did with Oikawa and Arukenimon and Mamemon. That will get another video back later on when I get through the season 2 kids, because it's kind of, some of that goes into that, of course, because he's very manipulative Ken, and he makes actual 2 beings, Mamemon and Arukenimon, and I'll go over them and Myotismon then. So that's what we have for this one. Again, as I said, Myotismon was going to be a little bit longer. Admittedly, out of all of the Digimon that he has on his side, Digimon isn't bad. Phantomon does look kind of cool, but I don't particularly care for him. Mammothmon, again, not bad. Again, there's some Digimon that can they're just bad at the time because they don't have anyone else they can work with. Mammothmon is not bad. Dark Tyrannomon, you can have a Dark Tyrannomon and it can still be your friend. Depends on how you raised it. Same thing, and I also kind of like Megaseedramon. I just do. There's some Digimon that I really like, and some of those ones are actually them. It's a giant frickin' sea leviathan. Why wouldn't you like it? But that's what we got for this video. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!
The sky will be darkened by the wings of many bats. The fallen people will invoke the name of the undead Digimon King. And when the clock strikes the hour of the beast, the undead king will reveal himself in his true form as the beast. Then angels will shoot arrows of light and hope at the loved ones of those they have been sent to protect, and a miracle will happen.